Okay, we will now move to our 9:45 timed item from the District Attorney, Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
Thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity, and it is a very wonderful segue, transitioning from the grand jury commendation to talking about human trafficking. As you all know, human trafficking was a feature of the 24-25 grand jury report about human trafficking and the efforts in Placer County to combat it. So that's what we'll talk about today, but I will just echo some of the comments of the grand jury. It is the strongest and oldest piece of the criminal justice system that we retained from England, and it was so important that the Founding Fathers embedded it into the Constitution. So we are proud to help advise on criminal matters and enlist their assistance on things. So it is a nice transition. So why are we here today? As you all know, January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Many of you attended the Red Sand event and have participated in some event marking human trafficking awareness in this month. But we wanted to talk specifically about the efforts in Placer County to combat human trafficking. It is perhaps one of the most, if not the most common question that I get as district attorney. I'm sure all of you receive questions about what is the nature of it and how and what are we doing about it in Placer County. So we saw this opportunity, particularly this month, rather than to have a private conversation or an email, but to do this here in board chambers so that our community can hear as well, because it is a emerging and constantly evolving crime. It is one of the most baseless and dehumanizing crimes that exist in our penal code, and some of the most depraved things that human beings can do to another human being. It encompasses both labor trafficking and sexual trafficking, and both represent threats to our way of life and our communities. And particularly now, what we are seeing is an evolving way in which traffickers are grooming and identifying victims by using online platforms. I often get asked the question, is it true that people are going to the malls and kidnapping people to force them into sex trafficking or labor trafficking? And while we don't see that here in Placer County, we do have traffickers and groomers who are trying to invade people's homes through our devices, targeting our most vulnerable population, our children, and grooming and trying to create new victims. And it takes a collaborative effort to combat that. So I'm going to talk just briefly about sort of what we're doing on all fronts in Placer County with our partnerships. I'm going to turn it over to one of our prosecutors in our Special Investigations Unit that handles human trafficking to go through a recent case. And then our communications manager, Stephanie Herrera, will talk about some of the innovative communications and outreach efforts that we are doing here in Placer County. Much like our fentanyl approach, much like our retail theft approach, we are hitting the problem and scourge of human trafficking head on from a number of different fronts. From our community outreach and engagement standpoint, we are trying to equip our families, our parents, our coaches, and our teachers, arm them with the right questions to ask, the right discussions about appropriate boundaries to try and determine if someone is at risk of being groomed or being trafficked. You will hear about our emerging programs like our App Safe program to keep children and parents safe online, as well as our Guard Against the Groom campaign to help have meaningful conversations within the home to identify those vulnerabilities that may exist. On the enforcement front, Placer County always has been and always remains committed to holding traffickers accountable. There are very stiff penalties in the law, and that requires good law enforcement and good prosecution efforts to make sure that those cases are investigated, those offenders are held accountable, and that those who think that Placer County might be an appropriate place to try and set up shop know that their organizations will be disrupted, dismantled, and they will pay severely. We have a dedicated unit within our office. We work closely with our law enforcement partners, particularly our Crimes Against Persons Division in the Sheriff's Office, the Crime Suppression Unit at the Roseville Police Department, and a number of our allied agencies that operate within Placer County to identify and disrupt those networks. We are very proud of the relationship that we have. We also have very close relationships with our Health and Human Services, particularly through our multidisciplinary interview center that really provides that lifeline and first step of resources to those that are coming through our center and are victims of trafficking. In addition to our sexual assault response team, also housed within the DA's office to provide critical exams and access to resources. Those are run in our office by our Chief Investigator, Mary Green, and our Lieutenant Vince Dudo, who operate those centers and really have created what is a model throughout the state for other counties to look at as to how to operate within the bounds of our advocacy and resource providing for human trafficking. And then, like I said, our community outreach efforts with our engagement into our community to equip those parents and children and families with the resources that they need. We are proud to talk about a particular case. I will say we handle a number of these cases each year, unlike a lot of larger jurisdictions that have areas that are sort of homegrown areas that continue to produce areas of human trafficking. We're a destination. We have an interstate, and we are a prize destination for all criminal enterprises based on just the things we have here in Placer County. So it takes a collaborative effort to stay on top of those networks that seek to operate here and to disrupt and dismantle them. I'm going to turn it over here in a minute to Devin Portillo. He's a senior prosecutor in our office assigned to our Special Investigations Unit, but I want to specifically mention our partnership with our Sheriff's Office. We have top-notch law enforcement at our county level. I will also recognize the Roseville Police Department, their crime suppression unit as well, as I mentioned. And then specifically, we have Sergeant Chris Carlton and Detective Kyle Murchison here today, who were involved in the case that Devin is going to talk about. It's an example of some of the types of cases we have coming through here in Placer County. We will remain vigilant. We will remain dedicated. We will continue to work with our law enforcement partners as well as our nonprofits and our public resources. I will acknowledge Gary McDonald from Stand Up Placer here today, who plays a critical role in providing necessary services to victims of human trafficking in Placer County. And I will mention Kids First today, as well as we have just such an incredible collaborative effort on all things related to human trafficking in Placer County to maintain Placer County as one of the safest jurisdictions in the state of California. So thank you for your time today. I'll return at the end to close it up, but I'm going to turn it over now to Senior Deputy District Attorney Devin Portillo. Thank you.
Let's see if we can move it. It works. Good morning. Devin here. DA Geyer allows me to work for the Major Narcotics and Human Trafficking position for this county. And I'm here today to talk broadly about human trafficking, but also kind of bring it into a specific case. But before I do that, I want to remind this board that human trafficking is not a crime that happens in the open. It thrives in secrecy because it involves manipulation and the psychological control traffickers exert on the victims that they prey upon. And after about 4 years of working in this environment, in this specific unit, and speaking to countless victims, I've found that they don't often identify themselves as victims. They don't identify themselves as trafficked. And that's because of the strange relationship they have with these traffickers. They feel that they owe them a debt of loyalty, sometimes a financial debt. Often they feel some sort of romantic connection to these traffickers. And because of that, as a prosecutor, it's difficult to prosecute these cases because the key witness, the victim themselves, because of this unique relationship they have with the victimizer, don't often want to actually participate in the prosecution. They often recant the stories that they provide law enforcement initially on scene. They'll minimize the roles of the traffickers by maximizing their own involvement in the sexual exploitation of their bodies. And it creates unique challenges that, as my boss just said, requires a collaborative effort. Namely, we have to meet victims where they are. And we have to do that in a way that's trauma-informed, and it has to be by people that are especially trained in the unique nature of these crimes in order to speak to these women and do their best to get their story told. The reason that's important is because when we're dealing with human trafficking, if we don't have a victim-centered approach, and that's something that I had to learn, then we can't actually prosecute these cases the way we need to. Because if they're not engaged, if the victims don't feel heard or supported even in a little way, they won't participate at all. And I will have an empty box where the victims are supposed to testify. And with that said, I will say that trafficking, more often than not, is a repeat offender case. These traffickers will traffic multiple women over long periods of time. Without meaningful sentences, traffickers return to the same behavior, often to the same women that they trafficked prior to that. And that's why we have very difficult times in actually prosecuting these cases, especially when we're dealing with minors. Now, we have a child advocacy center in Placer County. It's an MDIC. I'm sure you guys are aware of this. But it has specially trained forensic investigators that are trained in how to speak to minors, especially minors that have deep trauma, which these cases always tend to find. And they're able to interview these minors one time. If you interview minors multiple times, you're going to have stories change, you're going to have forgetfulness, the minimization and the recanting doubles over time. And because of these very specific trained investigators that we have within my office, we were able to interview these minors once, find out exactly what happened or as best as we can, and then build a prosecution from that. And so what I want to do after giving you those general topics on human trafficking, I want to talk about a very specific case. And this is People v. Green and Williams. This case highlights the importance of having true buy-in from our law enforcement partners, specifically the Sheriff's Office, as well as the Child Advocacy Center and our specialized forensic interviewers. Now, I'll give you the story. Essentially, it's September 30th of 2024. Jonathan Green, he was 24 years old at the time, was speeding down Highway 80 westbound, heading back to the Bay Area. And he was pulled over by sheriff deputies for speeding. And what they found is that there was two 15-year-olds in the car, both in the back seat, both dressed in a manner that I think we all can consider prostitution-type clothing. Both minors gave fake names and fake birthdays to the sheriff deputies at the time. They both told the sheriff deputies that Mr. Green was just giving them a ride. And because of that, there wasn't enough to actually arrest Mr. Green at that point. The deputies were smart enough to take the cell phones. There was multiple cell phones located in the vehicle, but they had to let Mr. Green go. But what they did is, with the help of the Child Protective Services, they were able to at least rescue those two girls that night and actually transfer them to their parents, one of which was a missing person. And for some counties, that would have been enough. You know, they have two recanting witnesses who were on scene, already lying to law enforcement, but at least we rescued them and gave them back to their parents, and hopefully things work out. But Placer County is not other counties. And once I heard about this traffic stop, I was able to contact the Sheriff's Office, and they appointed, or I guess assigned, it was a better word, this case to Detective Murchison, who's one of their top detectives. Sorry, Sergeant Stokes. Okay, one of their best. And it's extremely important because he knew right then we had a cold case with two very vulnerable girls in a situation where we know that these traffickers will circle around and victimize them again. And so what he did is he utilized the Child Advocacy Center, these, we call them CACs, but there's so many acronyms here, within our county, was able to get one of those girls, through the help of their family, back up to Placer County. And she was interviewed by one of our trained forensic interviewers. What that girl told us was fascinating, because what she said is both her and her friend, both 15-year-olds, were at Vallejo High School, and they were recruited via Instagram by this guy named Bernardo Williams. Now remember, Mr. Green was the one in the car. There was only one male in that car. We had no idea that Mr. Williams was involved. And what those girls said is, or what the girl told us is, Mr. Williams recruited them to make money. And both him and Mr. Green picked up the two girls in Vallejo. They then traveled to Sacramento to the Blade there. The Blade is an area where prostitution is not legal, obviously, but where prostitutes will tend to gather, where a lot of the sex buyers will come, in jurisdictions that are not as harsh as ours that are allowed to foster. And they then had sex for money with strangers. The two men then took the girls, drove to Stockton. Now, this is all over a 24-hour period. They went to Stockton to another Blade. They then had sex with strangers for money, 15-year-olds. And then they had to drive back through Placer County. And the reason they had to is because Mr. Williams lived in Rockland. So they dropped off Mr. Williams, got back on Highway 80, and they were going to drive to Oakland to have sex with strangers for money at another Blade when they were thankfully pulled over for speeding. And through that, Detective Murchison was able to do a lot of police work. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because I don't. There is a lot. He is very good at what he does. He did a very in-depth forensic analysis of the cell phones themselves. Mr. Williams was helpful in the fact that he had an ankle bracelet on with his GPS that was currently kind of broadcasting where they went that night. All of that was very helpful. And thankfully, both men were arrested and brought to Placer County. And they were both convicted for 2 counts of human trafficking. Both are serious felonies, and they were given very strict sentences. Mr. Green was given, 7 years, 8 months state prison versus just being let off on a traffic ticket. Mr. Williams was given 15 years, 4 months state prison. But I want to go to actually their words. This is something that's indicative of trafficking. This is a statement made by Mr. Green while sitting in a Placer County cell speaking to his girlfriend. You said they get something. He said a bad word. What is he doing is taking care of them, making sure I don't know. They probably don't got nowhere to go. They was okay with it though, from what it looked like. They were perfectly fine with it. He's referencing the 2 15-year-old girls. And I'm saying that if you go look up anything about this, you're gonna see, I promise you will see, it will be 3, 4, 5, 6 under one person. And what he's referencing is that sex trafficking, these human traffickers, they're just helping these women out. They're just doing what they want to do. And they're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 women. Here's another statement that Mr. Williams stated, again in jail in Placer County, speaking to, I believe, his girlfriend. They must have been obviously, they must have been obviously little kids, referencing the little girls. But they must have been obviously, they were prostitutes though. And then his girlfriend said, they are not prostitutes, they are kids. And so it's an interesting, way to look at these crimes actually through the words of the traffickers and how they are able to justify to themselves the crimes that they are committing. But I will say with this case, what it does more than anything is underline the point that with the help of specialized detectives that are willing to do a lot of work in order to make these cases go, as well as specialized child advocacy centers that we have access to in Placer County, we're able to be the exception and not the rule. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, Stephanie Herrera with Placer District Attorney's Office. The nature of things coming to our office through casework and working with victims of crime, they're obviously very heavy. So in the public affairs unit, we really try to analyze these cases, work with our victims, and find a way to kind of sort through the darkness and use it as a form of empowerment, whether making changes at a state level legislatively, or really we found the most change that we can affect is educating people, educating our caretakers, educating our community members. When I ask prosecutors and investigators in our office, what is something that you're seeing in the field that we don't see, everyday people? What is it that you want community members to know? This is the issue that comes up the most. And this is the grooming, the slowly reaching out to our kids through these apps and through these games, and just that slow drip of information that really counters something that we've tried to affect, whether it be fentanyl, teen dating violence. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to my kids. It can happen to our kids. Through these apps and through these games, it's happening upstairs in their room while we're cooking dinner. It's every second, every day in their hands through their phones. And as a parent, step parent and a new bio parent, it's terrifying learning these cases. So learning these things and analyzing these things and knowing that this month was coming up, we really thought it was important to define this issue clearly, just kind of do a little jolt for parents and hit pause. And that's why what we do in the DA's office and in the sheriff's office is so important. These specific cases really kind of do a jolt and get people to pay attention. They say, okay, now that you're paying attention, here's what we can do to counter this. So I am a big fan of acronyms myself. So we took a breakdown of guarding and grooming, which created the campaign Guard Against the Groom. And so we're going through the concept of grooming. Each letter of grooming is GR. Each letter specifies something different. It's a different concept. We worked closely with our Child Interview Center and our experts to look at what they're seeing and define it through these acronyms. And then ultimately through the guarding acronym, we are creating those preventative measures that parents and caregivers can use to prevent grooming as our kids are seeing it come in and identify those early warning signs. When we built out this concept, we felt that it was important to do a little bit more than a social media post or just launch a web page and call it a day. So that is why we created the Guard Against the Groom Workbook. So it's a takeaway, it's something tangible, it's something interactive, something that we can actually give parents and caregivers and teachers, anyone that's interested, something that they can actually take away with them. Special shout out to our print shop. These are literally right hot off the press. Our print shop in Jordan over there, they are angels. They take my crazy ideas and quickly turn them around. But in this workbook, you're going to see real life examples. We break down each element of the concept and create real life examples and real life discussion questions for children and their parents and caregivers to go through. We have interactive questions where we actually take grooming techniques and throw them at the kids that you're sitting down with in the workbook and give them examples on what they can say back. And we have incorporated some real life storytelling where we're bringing in real stories from cases and examples that we've seen and telling them through a more storytelling type of technique, and then ultimately creating discussion questions and various concepts that caregivers can go through in the workbook. This workbook perfectly integrated with our recent launch of the App Safe initiative, which we launched a month ago. We received overwhelming feedback, and again, as a parent, this partnering with the App Safe initiative is critical. So we included some really purposeful conversation prompts about the apps that our kids are using and the games, really going through and sitting down with our kids and saying, what app are you using? Who are you talking to on it? Do you know everyone? Do you not? Are they friends? Who are they? And then having your kids, I did this myself, I have a teenager, having your kids go through each individual app and show me what are the privacy settings? What does it look like? What is it allowing? And really forcing us all to hit pause and go through these various apps, because this is a new world. It's a new world for us, it's a new world for our kids, but we created those prompts here in this workbook. And it's designed to have parents and caregivers sit down after school just a little bit a day. They can go through each of these concepts and ultimately have our kids feel supported, trusted, and listened to, and having these conversations proactively so we can hopefully prevent these cases from coming into the office in the form that we've been seeing. In terms of distribution, Placer County is amazing collaborative. We've seen this time and time again, so we're hoping to distribute this through schools, law enforcement, nonprofits that work with kids. We have them printed. We're going to leave some here, so if you guys have any feedback on how you want this distribution, we're always open to it. But we will work with anyone that wants to work with us, and we will make them printed and available for anyone that's interested in helping us disseminate this important information. Thank you all. Sure.
Quick question.
Yeah.
On the distribution, I'm assuming that you're working with places like Koinonia, but just knowing that foster kids are at such high risk for this, are you distributing to those folks as well?
That would be a great addition. We haven't in the fentanyl, in past, we have not gone directly there, but I would absolutely love to work with you in your office to make that connect and work on that distribution. It's a great addition.
Okay.
We'd be happy to. That's a great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, you've heard what we're doing about human trafficking. It was illuminating last year when the grand jury said we don't know much about human trafficking or what's happening in Placer County, and it was nice when we finished our presentation and read their report about all of the efforts being done. So we wanted the community and this board to know that. We will continue our efforts to collaborate with our partners, both on the prevention end and on the enforcement end. There are more things to come in the future. We have more bold ideas on how to stay ahead of this issue in Placer County. So we will be back in front of this board with more ideas here shortly. We did not ask for a proclamation or anything today to save a little bit of effort on your part, but happy to answer any questions if you have any. There's no action item today other than just to leave you with this information. And if you have questions in the future, please reach out to our office. We are incredibly proud of the efforts that we're making and with our partners in the criminal justice system, the ones you've heard today and are here. So happy to answer any of those questions. Otherwise, we really appreciate your time and your dedication to this issue here in Placer County.
Thanks, Morgan. Supervisor Gustafson.
Thanks, Morgan, and to your whole team and to our investigators and the commitment of being proactive in fighting this battle. I think the most vulnerable, when I looked at your outline, I think of the most vulnerable, and they're often not the people with the resources to hear this and to get the books. So whatever we can do to help through our HHS department, people receiving benefits and needing financial assistance, because I'm sure it hits all sectors, but especially in that arena, there are individuals who might be preyed upon to help their families. You can help your family this way. And so whatever we can do to help get that word out to those less fortunate members, and I think that would be through our HHS department and some of the clientele, to just make sure these brochures are everywhere. The efforts that you're making are tremendous, and I can't thank you enough for us being at the forefront, again, with the incredible leadership, Morgan, that you bring to this and everything that you've done for our county. So,
Well, we have a wonderful team, and we'll take advantage and take you up on that offer to get this as far and wide as we can. Thank you.
Supervisor Gore.
I don't have more to add other than thank you. It's a sobering issue, and it's really hard to believe that things like that happen in our community in this day and age. But I really appreciate your efforts as a team to make an impact, going above and beyond. It really matters. And I think about those two young women, and I think, thank God somebody stopped them on the freeway and then followed up. So I just really appreciate all that you all are doing. It makes a huge impact.
Supervisor Jones.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to your whole team. Several questions, actually. Since that's hot off the press, you wouldn't happen to have 5 copies, would you?
Yeah.
I think we have an entire box.
Good.
We will leave as many as you would like.
Would love to have some, you bet. So I'm curious, do most of your victims, are they preyed on online mostly? I mean, they probably don't just go up to the mall and approach somebody, not...
No, the majority of our victims are approached. Many of them fall into sort of that category that Supervisor Gustafson talked about, those that lack resources, those that have broken homes, those that traffickers assess as vulnerable, that likely won't tell the police, won't tell authorities, won't tell family members, or don't have a family support system that can prevent them from noticing the signs. So those are kind of where the groomers and the traffickers start. And what we see is a lot of that happening elsewhere, coming through and into Placer County, as opposed to reaching out directly here. We don't organically grow a lot of human trafficking, but we see it here because it's either through transit or an attempt to set up shop at a local motel and see if they can get business here. Those are what we see. So the more we can secure sort of the foundations of our community and our children and our families so that it never starts here, and then let people aware that, one, for traffickers, this is not an area that you're going to have much success, and you're going to pay dearly. And two, our community members can be aware and spot the signs. So when there are those teenagers that are going into a Rite Aid and buying makeup, even though they look like they're starving, but they're wearing clothes that are completely not age appropriate, that people know that they can report that and that it will get followed up on our law enforcement side so that incidents like this can be uncovered. So those are sort of the aspects of where it begins, but we are seeing more and more online. The grooming, the innocent relationships that begin to turn.
Right.
And it's the anonymous person that you're gaming with who all of a sudden begins to gain trust by isolating you from your family. No one understands you like I do, types of things.
Right.
And then eventually getting more and more information and trying to build a trust that is ultimately exploited. So it is a new area where we are seeing, because no matter what you do online, you can communicate with strangers now. And that never used to be the thing. You were limited to people in your communities, and now you're on Roblox, you're on any sort of gaming channel, and all of a sudden you're in contact with people who will seek to manipulate that relationship.
Right, right. It sounds like maybe also additionally bullied children or children who feel ostracized from their peers and feeling alone and are looking for somebody that's sympathizing with them and to gain their trust.
And that gets manipulated, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like we have a demand for the services in Placer County.
We do, and
Something
we
to
are
do about-
fulfilling and meeting those with, and I mean that countywide. We are in a position to be able to sort of quarterback the issue, seeing it from the law enforcement side and the Health and Human Services side as we see these victims and kids coming into our center. So it puts us in a relatively unique position to sort of coordinate the outreach efforts and make sure that we are doing as much prevention as we are enforcement.
Right. So should we be reaching out and exposing the fact that we have a demand here in Placer County to, I don't know, shame those constituents into not looking for the services? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I think putting it out there so that everybody knows they exist and then encouraging people to do it, it's certainly those that come into contact in the criminal justice system or in our service delivery system from
Yeah.
our Health and Human Services standpoint. I think the more we make it known and available, the more people will take advantage of it. And then the more we make examples out of those who
Yeah.
seek to engage in this behavior, the more lessons that are learned and it catches on quickly. We saw that with fentanyl. We're seeing it with retail theft. We'll see it in human trafficking. They'll know that it's enforced and investigated here and that it's not a good idea to come into Placer County to engage in that behavior.
so it seemed like the two that were involved in this, not the young girls, but their handlers, we'll say, seem like they're younger these days. They're not an older population, is it?
Yes, I mean, the demographics of human trafficking are a younger demographic, and it's increasingly so because of sort of the access that strangers are now given. I mean, you prior to all of this online access, you would have to physically be in close proximity to minors to be able to try and groom them. And everyone is sort of aware of the stranger danger when you see someone you don't know.
Yeah.
But we don't think about that in our homes online when our kids are playing games. We think they're home, they're safe, when in fact they're not. And that is the new boogeyman. That is the new danger. So the more we can
Right.
get the services related to those kinds of conversations out, the more we'll see a reduction in kids that are ultimately targeted.
Do you have any indicators whether the clients are in a younger generation, or are they older, or is there any kind of?
I'd have to get
Consistency.
the specifics. I mean, our MDIC center, I'll tell you, we are doing more and more child interviews each year. I think this year we're close to 380, which is more than the year before, and we are exponentially doing more interviews. Many of those are in that target demographic that are either being manipulated by family members or being targeted by groomers who are attempting to get them into some sort of trafficking.
Well, thank you all for what you do and for your investigators and everybody.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Supervisor DiMattei.
Thank you, Morgan, Stephanie, Devin, for the presentations. The only thing I can think of is what we could do and the way we reach the most people. I know we all send out our newsletters, and if you wanted to put something together that we can do for this month, then I'd be happy, send it to Christina and all of our chiefs to, maybe we do this mass thing. I think it's probably the easiest, quickest way to reach everybody. Instead, anyways, just my thoughts on that. If you wanted to do something, we'd be more than happy to help push this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Supervisor Gustafson.
Quick question, and it's just so naive on my part. Are the online gaming platforms assisting us at all in trying to look for these signs and helping? And is your association trying to get legislative work done on this?
A couple of questions buried in there. No, they're not doing enough. They need to do more. It is, we're in this strange area of First Amendment and online freedom versus parents' privacy and the ability to regulate behavior online. I don't think those companies are doing enough. There is ongoing attempts at legislation to curtail it. They frankly have a very powerful lobby and don't like a lot of regulation, even though it's much needed. The biggest allies in that fight, along with our association's sort of advocacy groups, are the parents. So one thing we do very well here in Placer is partner with parents and survivors and victims to help carry that message, because those are the stories that end up making a difference at the Capitol. They don't want to hear from a prosecutor get up and talk about how horrible human trafficking is and that people can access through online gaming. They want to hear it from a parent or from a survivor, and that's when change happens. So we continue to harness that. We've tried. We haven't been successful thus far, but we'll continue to try and at least try and disinfect the issue with some daylight by being loud and obnoxious about it. We're very good at being that, both of those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, first of all, I would say one of the best takeaways I took is that if someone is going to choose to set up shop here, that you are going to dismantle what they have and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, which I very much appreciate and very much support. So thank you for that. And thank you to you and your team for, I think Supervisor Gustafson mentioned it, just being proactive and going above and beyond what you have to do. And, those girls weren't even Placer County residents, but you still cared enough to take care of things. And so I very much appreciate that. One question I did have, on the foster kids side, foster parents are extremely limited on what they can do to protect kids, protect the kids that are in their home. And even just for those kids having a cell phone, foster parents aren't allowed to look at those cell phones. They're not allowed to check those cell phones. The kids have the autonomy, which is a nightmare anyway. What I'm wondering is if there's opportunity there for legislative change on this side. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but once again, where they just so often don't think through what the ramifications of legislation is so often. That's a further conversation that I would love to talk to you about, is just, is there an opportunity for legislative change for foster parents to be able to have some control? And if they're not willing to do it for the foster parents, whether it's a social worker being able to check on these kids' phones, because here they are 10, 11 years old with open access to phones and no accountability on the part of their foster parents. So that's something I'd be very interested in talking to you more about. And then one other thing I was just thinking of is on the distribution piece of being able to get it in the hands of school counselors and folks who, you may already be doing that, but that was just something that came to mind for those kids who just don't have the parents at home who are able to check on things. So with that, I would just say, again, thank you so much for the work that you do. It's so important, and we are so blessed and fortunate to have an incredible district attorney's office in our county, so thank you.
Well, we have wonderful law enforcement and wonderful partnerships. Thank you. I will like to talk to you further on the foster child idea, because I think that is an area where more needs to be done. So if you don't mind, we'll continue that conversation and see if we can affect some change as well. Thank you all very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. And with that, is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this item?
Good morning, Jennifer, Placer County. I was just curious if it wouldn't be worth taking these workbooks into the schools, like 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, doing it year after year after year, because what we're seeing basically with human trafficking is brainwashing. So we kind of have to fight back by repeating this information over and over and over and over again, because children's brains aren't developed till they're about 25, the frontal lobes, and that's where they make decisions about impulse type things. And we really have to do a lot to protect them, because human trafficking isn't just prostitution for girls. It's organ stealing humans for organs. It's stealing boys. Boys are just as high of getting human trafficked as girls. And I think we don't look at the ramifications of what it means to be human. I think we've lost that in our culture. I think we've lost caring about being human and that everybody matters and everybody is equal in the sense that we have to protect everybody. It's really sad because while we're putting these men in jail for 7 to 15 years, and I think that's fantastic, I don't think it's enough because they're not getting help in there either to reverse their thinking, because the thinking is contagious. It stays there. So when they go out, they're going to do it again. There's enough money to be made in these kinds of industries that jail sentences don't mean anything, or they don't have money anyways, so they can eat, have medical care in jail, and then go back out and do the same thing again. This is all a really bad symptom of our culture and society, and I think we really have to look at how we can reverse this in how we think and how we act and how we behave culturally, and making sure that these services aren't needed. And right now, because they're needed and people want them, they continue. The technology aspect of this is mind-blowing to me because now it's almost like we've devalued humans and the children have devalued themselves. They don't even think that it's not okay to go do something like this, to go on an adventure, to go have sex with these people that they don't know. And I think we really have to look at that. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Gary McDonald, Executive Director of Stand Up Placer. If you were at the Red Sand event, you'd heard me talk about my stepdaughter who was sex trafficked. Sex trafficking destroys lives. There's no doubt about that. She was groomed. At first it was a romantic relationship. They introduced drugs. They got her hooked on heroin. And then while she was high, she was repeatedly raped by different men. After the heroin when heroin wasn't available, they used fentanyl. And then she became, she used more and more fentanyl over time, became unmanageable, and they just dumped her on the street. So her mother and I, we lost contact with her. She was no longer answering her cell phone. So we went to various homeless camps looking for her, expecting to find her body in a ditch. Thankfully, we were able to rescue her. We got her treatment, and she's been in and out of the VA because she served. The trauma started because she was raped in the military, and people took advantage of that trauma. And that's what happens with these children as well. My stepdaughter's a little bit older, but because of the trauma, she was susceptible. They got her hooked on drugs, and then they used her. She has now been clean for about 11 months, so that's the good part of this story. But I'm mostly here to say thank you. I've been here for about 2 hours, not quite 2 hours now, and I'm just amazed by the leadership in this community. The leadership here, in this room, the people who served on the court thing.
Grand jury.
Yeah, grand jury, sorry. So my heart is filled with gratitude for you and for all of these people in this room and the people that serve. So thank you and God bless you.
Thanks, Gary.
Hi, he's Sella Greenhouse. I go by Sella. Live in Lincoln. About 11 or 12 years ago, I had the opportunity to be the volunteer coordinator at Stand Up Placer. And in that 1 year 13 months or so that I worked for them, I did 3 crisis intervention trainings, and it was this eye-opener to being a new parent and the things that were happening and why we were studying it here and having Stand Up Placer. But Senior DDA Devin, can you go back to the first slide of yours? Is that possible? Okay, well, I will touch it. But there was a first slide, there's a few things that I wanted to really call out. A few months ago, PCOE had come to Western Placer, and they had spoken about online safety for kids and dating, and she shared a great deal in regards to the partnership with the district attorney's office, so it's great to hear on the other side of it what we're doing for human trafficking. But one of the things that's been important to me is this thought when I was a kid. It was kind of like see something, say something. So now I want to really take it a step further to see something, say something, and let the police determine the threat. I think that we might say something to a neighbor, but it's not necessarily reporting it and calling it out to the police so that they can go ahead and do that investigation. Seeing those certain things that we might see and we might think, oh, it's not my business. But it really is our neighbors that are here in our county, that it is our responsibility to see something, say something, and then let the police to investigate it. You know, there was a few things that DDA Devin had mentioned about identifying as victims and owing loyalty and repeat offenders, and some very important things that talks about how the victim feels. But I wanted to call out that first slide. You guys can all look that up online. But the human trafficking, what was really interesting is I thought, you know, I'm 42 now, so about in my early 30s and when I was late 20s, that human trafficking was sex trafficking. That was what it was. And human trafficking opened up my mind, and Stand Up Placer opened my mind that it was a lot of other things that the fellow public member, Jennifer, had mentioned. It's really listed on his slide in the very first one, but human trafficking is the unlawful act of coercing people in order to benefit from their work or service. And so today we saw and heard about a case that is most egregious we couldn't imagine overall. But I think when we think about what human trafficking is the unlawful act of coercing people in order to benefit from their work or service, and how important it is that anything can be done with good and can be done with bad. And so I'm grateful for those that are chosen or been assigned to step forward for the most egregious acts, but even the smallest ones that can be unlawful and that are benefiting from someone else's work and service, and really coerce them to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chambers? And is there anyone online?
No, Chair.
Okay, with that, thank you so much for your presentation. We very much appreciate you being here.